a keeper of memories, a keeper of history, a keeper of facts. If I looked at my story from a colonial point, my story would start in this country, but my story does not start here. My story starts entire city on the Nile Valley, Congo Niger Basin. That's what my ancestry is from.
It was their ways of preserving, which was orally. Because you can't burn memory when someone has a way of knowing and then you decide to burn them. Our women were called witches. There is an epistemic side of women. There is an epistemic side of indigenous people and original land owners where people's lands will be taken away from them. There's an epistemic side in those areas.
We need to understand that when you want to stand for yourself, there are costs to it. Sometimes the cost is not going to be that they will shoot you. Of course, it sometimes get to that point, like Martin Luther King or Michael Myers, that they will say, okay, this is too much now. They will literally take a gun, they will shoot you.
Her grandmother's migration narrative. And her grandmother was a woman who left her village at 14 years old. She survived loss, raised 7 children, and held her community together. The moment my client spoke her grandmother's name, it was almost as if all that information was transmitted to her. And she cried, she wept for a long time, and so did every other woman in that group. Reclaim what was lost and reimagine what is possible. So let me greet you in my traditional language, Yoruba. Ẹ káàbọ̀, àlàáfíà àti ìbùkún ni mo kí gbogbo yín. I greet you all with peace and blessings. So this topic is wonderful, one of my absolute favorite topics. You know, in Yoruba cosmology, before any gathering of meaning, we ground ourselves in the truth that creation itself never stands alone. The ancestors walk with us, um, the unborn lean forward, and we, the living, stand as bridges between what has been and what is becoming. Today, we explore interconnectedness, not as, for me, in my opinion, not as a theory, but as a living, breathing reality, shaping our identities, our healing, and our collective future. This is not abstract in its nature. This is not philosophical. This is ancestral science. That's how I believe, what I believe rather. This is transpersonal psychology, and this is the wisdom of our ancestral mothers, and most importantly, this is our lived experiences in the diaspora. So, you know, modern psychology often speaks of attachment, family system, and intergenerational transmission. But African cosmologies, they knew that they knew this long before any of these modern models came about. Yoruba teachings tell us, bí a bá pẹ́ nínú ẹ̀dá, ẹ̀dá pẹ́ nínú wa. In other words, when a being dwells long enough in another being, they become kin, they come together. So this is the interconnectedness in its natural original form. And in my opinion, also interconnectedness is not, it's not optional. It is how destiny is formed, it is how memory is held, and it is how healing becomes possible. Research in transpersonal psychology affirms that identity extends beyond the individual self to include ancestral memory, collective consciousness, spiritual lineage, cultural imprinting, the unseen field connecting human beings together. This mirrors Yoruba cosmology beautifully, where a person is never a single unit, but a constellation of forces. And storytelling, as we know, is a technology of connection. Storytelling is one of the oldest spiritual technologies on earth, and in every culture, stories can carry DNA, emotional, spiritual, and ancestral. So I'll start with that, and then I'll let my brothers and sisters speak.
All right, thank you so much for that, Reverend Gloria. We appreciate you for that input. That is highly valuable. It's highly valuable. In fact, it speaks to the very nature of what we are talking about today. That we're going to be looking at the conversation from three different dimensions, and we're looking at it from the point of view of memory. Of course, we have a memory expert in the room, Dr. Nengus is a memory expert. Of course, you can look at it from that angle. Of course, any other person can also come into it. We're also looking at it from the point of view of storytelling. We hear Reverend Gloria just making mention of that. We talk about it from the point of view of storytelling and reclaiming our identity. Of course, we also have many experts in the room who can also share on that. Let's just get started. Let's get started and let's have fun. So, yeah, Dr. Gwendolyn, you are here in the room. Thank you for joining us again. Please let us hear your thought on the conversation.
Well, thank you so much. I have truly missed you guys, but as I've said, I've been in my head. But I'm Dr. Gwendolyn Battle Levert. I am a literacy and cognitive researcher, children's author, and founder of the Retention Brain Framework. And I'm honored to join you in this important, I believe, conversation on exploring our interconnectedness because it speaks directly to the work I do and the story my own family carries. Very briefly, I want to offer 4 points about why our interconnectedness matters, not just culturally, but cognitively. And many times we overlook the cognitive part in our schools today. I have been in schools for the last 30 plus years, starting as a teacher all the way up from through administration, curriculum director, university professor, and doing international work. So I've had all these variety of things and all these variety of people that I've met, and I've made this interconnectedness. So I want to start off with number one. Our stories were our first cognitive tool. Now, if I look at school districts all over the world, we have 88% of our African American children, now they say marginalized children, who are not reading at grade level proficiency. And if we look at the data, we see it's because they are not good thinkers. We're finding that memory is failing them, rote and memorization, which a lot of schools, I would say 100% of our schools focus on first memorizing things, and our brains cannot hold that. So if we don't have the cognitive functions to attach to those things that they're teaching, our kids cannot remember. But with my research, I started off with our stories were our first cognitive tools as Africans. Long before formal schooling, our ancestors used storyteller telling to teach children how to remember, how to reason, how to interpret, and to make sense of the world. And when we look at our African American children, marginalized children, these are the areas that our children are having problems with. So the question should be, why are they? Why can't they remember? Why can't they reason? Why can't they interpret and make sense of not only their environment now, but also the world? What are their parents, their grandparents, their great grandparents, their great grandparents, especially? What are they pulling from our ancestral playing field? What are they doing in this world today? Are we so colonized in our mindsets, or are we so pulled into the capitalistic world that we have lost sight of what our ancestors have made or put before us? So this matters because cognitive development, as I just said, didn't start in the classrooms. It started in the kitchens, around fireplaces, around generations. And it made me think of, and it started in my own home because my mother, I wrote my first book, which became Smithsonian Children's Honor Book. I asked my mother, I said, "So what did you do when you were growing up?" And I started naming all the things that she had me involved in. And she said, "No, I was in the cotton fields." She said, "I came from a very poor environment." And that's when she started telling me about my great grandfather and my grandfather, who, after becoming a worker in the fields, he joined the army because Black men could join the army. So I wrote the story Off to School, how my mother wanted to go to school, but she could not because she had to stay work in the fields and then go into the kitchen and cook. And one day, her father, my grandfather, realized that she was smart and she needed to be in school, and he sent her there. This became one of my first books that I read to my kindergarten classroom, which was surrounded by 4 housing projects. And my kids were not reading. I thought I was so brilliant coming from Texas A&M University that I could teach anyone, until I was put into this classroom where most of my kids were poor white children, Black children, and a few Hispanic children. By December, my kids were not reading at all. Here I am reading out of a book with pictures that did not look like my children. And I felt in my mind, I was think I was a little bit touched with colonization. I don't know why I was, because of my mother's upbringing and my father's upbringing. But going to that all white university put that in my mind. And when I had to step back and get on my knees and ask God to forgive me by December when my kids were not reading, I put away all of those pictures that did not look like us. And I brought forth their ancestors. And then I started with the thinking part of literacy. They started to think through and remember, and when I say think through, to interpret, to make sense of not only their world but the world in that classroom. And then I moved into the housing projects. I started going from one parent's house to the next parent's house, and I found out that illiteracy was running wild in those 4 housing projects. So I pulled all of those kids from those 4 housing projects. I started writing stories, and that's when I wrote Off to School. From Off to School came the music in Derek's heart. My mother said that there is a man in the community, and he always played the harmonica. If you caught him in the church, he would say, "Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me." He would sing, and then he would play it on his harmonica. But she said if you caught him outside of the church, he would play the blues. And that's where the music and Derek's heart came from. This became a Reading Rainbow book. And then the final one, I think you can relate to the barber's cutting edge. When my son had to go to the barber shop, and I wanted to know what he was doing, and he says, "Mom, I'm taking my spelling words. The barber helps me with them." And so that became a major story for me to write. So what I'm saying is, unless we take on our history, the connectiveness in classrooms, our kids will be behind. Um, the second one, I think, and then I'll be finished. The diaspora is connected through shared mental frameworks, not just shared history. And I said that across continents, our people develop similar ways of thinking, how we perceive danger, how we read emotions, how we build resilience. And this matters because it explains why our experiences echo each other, even when we come from different corners of the world. And I found this out when I became a professor at Qatar University, and I met Indians, I met Arabs, I met people from the US, all over the world. They were at that university. And we would get together on special occasions. Sometimes we just would get together for talk. And they would say things that I knew I thought my mother said those things or my grandmother said those things. And I would say, well, who told you that? And they would say, well, my grandmother said this and this. And I still, to this day, have a close group of people from all over the world that they still keep in touch with me. They follow me. They follow me wherever I am. They call me Dr. G. They are finding me. So when we reclaim our stories, we reclaim our intellectual power. And that's one of the things that the people who have who colonized us, are trying to capture our intellectual power, because that is the power that's stronger than any amount of money, is stronger than anything. And so that's why we have that 88% of our African American children who are not reading at grade level proficiency. So thank you, because I could go on and on.
That is powerful. Thank you so much, Dr. Gwendolyn. I like the fact that we are approaching it from different angle. And I also like the fact that we are what it is, in the sense that we are talking about interconnectedness. This is actually what we are here today. I am a Nigerian that is connected from Italy. And of course, many of you are connected from different parts of the world. Reverend Gloria is connected from the UK, and you are talking from the US. And of course, the three of you there are in the US. So we are basically uniting together in the spirit of who we are and what we are. And I think this is really very important in being able to understand that we are what we have been waiting for, to be able to reclaim our history and shape it the way that it really represents us. Because really, effectively, we are interconnected. So from there, I want to lower my mic for Dr. Nengus. Dr. Nengus, of course, I think this is an argument that is also very relevant to you as an expert in memory. I don't know what you want to say about it. Please go.
Well, hello, everybody. It's good to see you again. It's cold here in Des Moines, and we're looking for probably snow coming here soon. So that sucks. I wish I was somewhere warm right now. But
You
looking
need
at
to, you need
looking
to
at
book your ticket to Lagos.
yeah, man. Hey, quick, fast, and in a hurry. No, hello everybody. I'm Dr. DeGoose Rudis of Imhotep. I'm in Des Moines, Iowa, and my organization is Imhotep Memory Consultancy LLC, and my consultancy company. We're dedicated to advance Afrocentric education, equity, and leadership development. That's our main objective here of my organization, because it's those three tenets that we're all about. But something in regards to the slogan of my organization, and our key mission is to remember one's culture, is to safeguard the psychological, historical, and spiritual integrity of the self. Research across anthropological, psychological, and the Africana studies affirm that cultural memory is a stabilizing force that sustains identity and well being. When individuals or communities are uprooted from their cultural foundations, patterns of identity loss and internalized oppression and mental distress emerge. Thus, without cultural remembrance, both sanity and identity inevitably begins to unravel. And that's my goal, is to be a keeper of memories, a keeper of history, a keeper of facts. Uh, if I looked at my story from a colonial point, my story would start in this country, but my story does not start here. My story starts in Taïseti on the Nile Valley, in the Congo, Nile, Congo Niger Basin. That's what my ancestry is from, and that's my story. That's who I am. It's in my DNA. I can't help it. And I love that I have what I have. Recently, I've been teaching this class at Grandview University, Africana Studies, and a lot of the youth there are intrigued, because they're finding out information their junior and senior year in college, and come to find out that they've been lied to for quite a long time. about the history of this uh, planet. Basically, it's just telling the truth about the factual evidence that supports the beginning of mankind started in the continent, what they call Africa today. But I don't like that term either because that's a European term. It was Alkebulan. It was the oldest name that I've come to find out what it meant, and the nation where our ancestors uh, zenith type of civilization occurred was right there in Kemet, which they call Egypt, which is another misnomer for the place of where it originally started. Uh, Memory is imperative. Memory is a must because if you don't rehearse and remember and disseminate this information to others, you just like the that African proverb says that when the elder passes, it's like a library burns to the ground. So it is essential that we produce our own narrative, speak our own stories, tell the youth about who we are and who they are, because many are out of the loop, have no idea who they are. I had a young lady in my class this semester who happens to be from Liberia, and she's happens to be a Bassa from the Bassa people of Liberia. And young lady, she's in the military, she's going to school, and I asked her. I said, "Well, you're Bassa." She said, "Yes." So I said, "Do you know the history of your ethnic group?" She said, "No, not really." And I said, "Well, your people come from the sixth century BC, ancient Kemet, ancient Israel." And she was like, "What?" I said, "Well, yeah. If you notice your last name is Zuda. It sounds like Judah, doesn't it?" And her mouth stuck all wide open. She was like, "I said, well, I'm not. You can Google, Google, or go on the computer and dig up and look and see where it says where the Bassa people come from." And she, I mean, that little young lady, after she found out that truth, you can meet like her countenance changed, her posture changed. She just like sat erect and set up like a little noble queen, like she's supposed to sit when she heard that. So I said, we have to remind, if young people, it's not just young people, it's old people that don't recite and know their own history. And it's sad, but those who do, we must disseminate this information to the world, because I am, and I am because you are, and that's why we're Ubuntu.
Absolutely. And that is what we are talking about today. Of course, we'll have time to be able to come back because I have a series of questions for each and every one of you. But I really want to thank you so much, Dr. Nengus, for this important sharing. In fact, it was touching when you were referring to that young lady when she finally saw the light. Maybe let's call it like that. She finally saw the light in that she now see who she is, and that is incontrovertible. You can't change that now. You can't unhear it. The moment you hear the truth about who you are, you can't change that now. You can pretend, you can pretend that you didn't hear it, but that is not going to change anything.
No.
So it is important. It is important for us to keep on reinforcing the fact that we are all actually and effectively connected, and we need to help each other to be able to see the light. I think that is what we are supposed to do. Because if you see the light, it is not just for you alone, help other people too, like what Dr. Nagel is talking about. Because now he helped this young lady coming from Liberia, and that young lady's life is changed forever. Believe me, you might not see her maybe dancing on the street, but her life is changed forever because she found out the truth about herself. That is important. All right, I allow my mic to bring in Dr. Marcia. Dr. Marcia, what is your take on the conversation? I want to believe that this conversation should also resonate with you. Please go ahead and share with us.
It does. It does resonate with me. For those who don't know me, I am Dr. Marcia Thomas. I am a faith-based leadership consultant and coach. I am originally from Jamaica. I love my country. I also help females, especially leaders who and executives 40 plus and over who wants to actually enhance their faith and make it to turn their unique gifts and talents into a profitable calling to make profitable impact and to have strategic because I want to speak of interconnectedness from a place of healing and recovery, especially based on the devastation that is in Jamaica at this time. As a Jamaican, the interconnectedness stands out to me at this time because it's so valuable. I am interconnected in the sense that I believe that interconnectedness has a heart and it also has a brain. So you must be connected based on you're connected to people based on your emotions, and you're connected based on your communication and what you remember. So memories are important, and memories are built from the brain and the heart, the experiences that you shared. And so we are tied to each other either by blood or association or by community. And for that reason, I believe that interconnectedness, first of all, starts with the person. The Bible says, if you want to make friends, you must make yourself friendly. That's one. And community is very important to him because when he made Adam, he gave him a mate. And he said to him, go and be fruitful and multiply. And so that created a family and created a generation. And so we become connected through our hearts and through our brain, but it starts with a personal connection of knowing who you are, why you are, and how you navigate the world. And so you must have a sense of belonging. You must feel valued, you must feel appreciated, because this is so essential for emotion and mental well-being and for social impact and meaningful connection. The next thing that you must have is that from a personal interconnected framework, you must immediately have a support system. And that is why you're born into a family. Your blood family does not necessarily remain your true family, because there are some blood families who don't assist each other. And so those who are there for you, are always scaffolding, mentoring you, are those persons who have now become your interconnected vine that we call a support system. And those persons help you, whether by default or through divine's life scripts or ordinance. They help you to navigate your challenges and your struggles and to overcome. And they help you to pivot, whether through their finance, whether through their encouragement, and so on. And they celebrate your success with you. And they grieve with you when you're hurt and when you have your losses. And then there is the connections that we make because we want to learn, because we want to grow, because we want to gain new perspective, because we have developed understanding, and because we have developed empathy. And so, first of all, interconnectedness begins with you. It cannot start without you. And it's very important that this is understood from the voice of the diaspora, from the feel of the diaspora, and from the brain and the heart of the diaspora, because I believe that every community has a brain and has a heart. And as a leader and a coach, that's very important. That connection has to be made. If you don't know who you are, you actually grope around and you adopt all sorts of things, and then you don't know even where you're going because you really don't have a destination. You are just moving with the wind. And in the diaspora, we have to make sure that we maintain that connection to ourselves, to our roots, to our generation, to those things and livelihoods that have framed our faith, framed our life, and framed our mindset and perspectives and expectations, because they can either limit us or they can give us wings. And that's the first thing. I fear that a lot of us have lost that uniqueness, that authentic being of understanding who we are and why we are, and not changing to adjust, to compromise, or to fit in. So we are not embracing popularity, but we are embracing our place and taking our rightful place wherever we go. And then I want to talk about the professional interconnectedness, because some of us confuse our role with our purpose. When we take ourselves with us, we take the sum total of who we are, where we're coming from, who we belong to, and why we belong. We are not ashamed of whatever gospel we are carrying. And the gospel for me is the sum total of your experiences, your lineage, your mentors, your beliefs, your perspectives, your hurts, your pain, and your inefficiencies, because every one of us have those types of inefficiencies. Notice I didn't call them deficiencies, because there are no deficiencies, but there are some of us, based on our how we connected initially to our generation, to ourselves, to our parents. We have temperaments that trigger people, and we also are easily triggered. So we must know what triggers us and how we trigger others, especially in the framework of the professional space and family interconnectedness, because some of us claim victim and fortify it in our spirits when we are in fact the persons who have caused things upon ourselves, because we are not connecting properly, we are not connecting authentically, we are not connecting unconditionally, we are not treating people the way we want to be treated. If it was reversed, I know I'm looking at it from a different angle, but as a leader and a coach, that's how I want to frame it. And so professionally, we must, interconnectedness means for me that we collaborate, we are innovative, we are flexible, and we are inclusive and accommodating. And so we welcome, as we share our innovative ideas, solutions, and perspectives, we welcome that in our team and in the spaces that we have been driven or we have gone to occupy. And sometimes that means interconnectedness means that we are silently observing and actively listening to what is said and what is not said. And we time with wisdom and gratuity when we actually speak to whom and when and where, so we can have the impact and effect to generate the type of change and outcome that we want. Some of us prematurely connect, and we think that this in connectiveness or in connectivity is something that means that I must be vocal and I must show up and I must present, because silence sometimes is extremely golden and can become a powerful strategy to drive us forward. When we move, when we are supposed to move, and when we do what we are supposed to do at the time when we are supposed to do it, because we are self aware and because we understand proximity and presence and we understand movement, that is when the drive is made. We as interconnectivity for networking and for opportunities is also important. I'm sorry, as we build our relationships, because these are the things that open doors, that promote a community of practice in the diaspora, that leads to new opportunities and partnerships, and career advancement, and link us to our roots, so we always pay forward. We never forget where we are coming from and how we have been led in the past. And that gives us hope for the future and the resilience that we need to remain connected to the right sources. And then, if we talk about interconnectedness, that makes sense for me in the professional space and in the family space. We talk about, and the diaspora, because I see the diaspora as family, especially when you have left your country, when you have gotten into somewhere where you have to be making adjustments, where you leave emotions and where you leave a lot of memories behind, where you are connecting them, where you have nostalgia, where you long for. These things are so important. And we sometimes get into frameworks and environments that do not maintain it. it, and a lot of persons in the diaspora feel helpless and they give up because this connectedness is lacking. The fact that some persons are not able to function the way they used to, where they are coming from, and also to they have to make new friends and have new associations. And that's why interconnectedness in the diaspora is so important. That's why memory building is so important. That's why understanding self is so important. And that is why storytelling is so nurturing and foundational for us to continue to have faith, and for us to continue to strive, and for us to continue to withstand all of what we are dealing with these new changes. So we want to look at connecting through understanding, through empathy, through compassion, and through enhancing the ways we see ourselves and how we mirror each other based on what we think should happen and what we know is happening. And so the next one is the community. And I'm going to rest after I deal with my community, because interconnectedness cannot happen in isolation. It must happen in a community, what I call a community of practice and collective accountability. So we are more resilient when we are more supportive of each other and harmoniously enhance what each other does. I don't see any interconnectedness that is genuine and lasting, that is based on self or isolation in any relationship, context, or environment, especially in the diaspora. When we sell ourselves and we sell each other, it comes back to haunt us, because some persons in the interconnectedness feels that it is normal to step on others to get where we are going in the diaspora, and we find that we eventually lose our balance, because the foundation has to be that we are connected harmoniously, that we are supportive, and that is the heart of resilience. Then we talk about the collective growth. When we connect, we grow. We can tackle complex challenges, and we can actually achieve individual and shared goals. Finally, we talk about the interconnectedness that promotes cultural exchange. We are all the same when all is said and done. We have blood in our veins. We have the same hopes and aspirations. We want to succeed. We want to have peace. We want to achieve. We want to feel fulfilled, regardless of where we are or who we are, and regardless of how God advances us. Because some of us, when God advances us against the other persons in the diaspora, we tend to forget that we were once there, and we tend to, what we call in Jamaica, throw a stone behind you. And I want to say interconnectedness always comes back to remind us that we are not islands, we are humans, and that we need each other, and that this cultural exchange, this inclusiveness, this acceptance must be nurtured, must be promoted, and because that's the only way that we can enrich our lives and our communities. We want to understand that interconnectedness is a divine and sacred relationship that God ordained and designed for our mental health, for our financial health, for our personal well-being, for our spiritual health, for our emotional health. When we put it, when we don't balance it through empathy and through resilience, through adaptability, through flexibility, through inclusiveness and accountability, then the currency becomes watered down, and we need more to achieve.
Thank you so
I want
much.
to stop there for this
Thank you
time.
so much. We appreciate all that important point and very deep one, actually. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much. I just want to point out one thing before I bring in Latifa to add a point. Then, of course, I will have one question to ask so that we can elaborate more. So one time, a person was saying to me, because of course you all know how this episode came about, how the diaspora storytelling came about. That is from the research that we did here in northern Italy, talking about the presence of Africans here. From there, of course, it expanded to a different part of the world where you are testimonial of that. You are connecting from different parts of the world. I've interviewed people from China. I've interviewed people in Canada, in France, in Germany. Of course, I'm talking of Africans that are living in this different part of the world. So one person that I've interviewed then was telling me that he actually liked what I'm doing, and he was saying that when they came, they didn't have the chance, they didn't have the possibility, they didn't have the resources to be able to do what I am doing today. And again, you need to see that from the point of view of interconnect, that we are actually connected. We are one and the same. I need to help you so that you can also help me. In fact, when I started this storytelling series, when I started this journey, I didn't say I was looking for my story. I was trying to document the story of other people that look like me. And as I am finding their story, I'm also finding my story. Because if I just say, okay, I come to Verona, okay, I'm a Nigerian in Verona, I am this, I am that, that would be useless. I am supposed to be at the service of the people. So the job that I have done, more than 1,000 interviews that I have collected, I'm not going to take it away with me when I die. I am leaving it behind for other persons who are going to take a look at it and say, this makes sense to me. So I am connected even to the one that are not even born yet. That is who we are. We are also connected to those that are be here that we never even have the chance to see, because we are all connected in this journey. It is not just for one person. It's not just because you are the smartest guy, you are the most beautiful woman. No, it's not that. It is because your destiny is tied to my destiny. Therefore, we are all in it together. Anyway, I bring in Latifat. Please share with us, what is your take on the conversation of the day, interconnectedness? Please go ahead.
Hi everyone, my name is Latifa. I don't know if you can all hear me well,
We can hear
but
you.
okay, good. So I'm gonna start on this ground. So who lied to you, and then why do you believe them? I would start with a quick story because this is a Diaspora Storytelling Series, and a few months ago, I was talking to my grandmother, whom I love so much, and I brought up a Yoruba proverb that says àkùkọ bàbá mi láíláí àkùkọ bàbá mi láíláí owó ní í jẹ kì í jẹ àgbàdo. um when you look at those type of proverbs that's being passed to us as knowledges, some of these proverbs, these childhood proverbs that we were able to learn, is now disappearing from everyday conversation. It's now disappearing from even how our elders talk to us because we are not learning them. And when I asked my grandmother, I'm like, why are these things disappearing from conversations? Because we don't speak in the language of colonizers. And I don't want to use slave trade in this conversation. I'm going to use slave captivity because people were captives. There was no trade. It was not about a trade. It was about people being captives, right? And my grandmother said that these proverbs have disappeared from our conversation because people believe that they stopped mattering. People don't just believe in these proverbs no more. And then, because when you don't repeat something often enough, because you're told that whatever your grandma tell you is not important, or your knowledge is inferior, and all of these particularistic worldviews are the dominant knowledges that we should be adopting. If you don't school in the US, you don't have enough knowledge as someone who has schooled in Nigeria. But who lied to you? And why do you believe them? They make us believe that our education is so backward, right? And then we start to question our identity of knowing. We start to question our inheritance. We start to question our collective identity. But I say again, who lied to you? And why do you believe them? You know, why are we being told that our indigenous worldviews are just barely superstition or they are just myth? But the knowledges that we have now that has been imported into our education is the actual scientific truth of knowledge. Why do you believe them? And don't let them lie to you. So today, as we talk about interconnectedness, we need to look at the hegemonies of the Western worldviews, where we are being told that, the Western ideologies are supposed to be the way we look at our own local communities. And in this type of conversation, I work in the area of storytelling psychology, a word that nobody gave to me. If you look it up, I just decided to say, you know what, I love stories. But then with this education, since I have to use the language, okay, then I'm a story psychologist, so feel free to call me one, because that's who I am. But when you look at this framing, all of these people, we usually say that we want the same thing. We want the same dignity, we want safety, we want love, we want a sense of community. But the path to those things have not been equal, not historically, not socially, not politically, not even epistemically, right? Where some communities had their knowledge preserved, but some knowledges have been attacked. And that attack has a name, and that's what we call epistemicide. There's a lot of, and I'm going to apologize to women who are listening to me right now from anywhere in the world that you might be, because there's been an epistemicide of women's way of knowing. In the past, women were burned because they were called witches, because they didn't want women to know, because women, it was their ways of preserving, which was orally, because you can't burn memory when someone has a way of knowing and then you decide to burn them. Our women were called witches. There is an epistemicide of women. There is an epistemicide of indigenous people and original land owners, where people's lands will be taken away from them. There's an epistemicide in those areas. There's an epistemicide of non-Western philosophies. There is an epistemicide of even, it's a lot of epistemicides, but it's also an attack that we've been told to believe just five white men in our lives. Five white men would define what identity is, in a whole little dictionary that they call dictionary, and this is what identity should mean to us. But who lied to us? And why do we believe them? So when a people's memory is being disrupted, our identity become very harder to anchor, because when you keep trying to find ways to erase our identities, to erase our ways of knowing, to erase our stories, hybridity or post-colonial hybridity becomes less of a choice to our people, because we want to keep adapting, because our worldview is being attacked, because they want to marginalize us. And then we begin to start negotiating our belonging. Okay, let's see how we can fit in. No, I'm bringing the whole table. I'm not begging to be at the seats. A professor once told me, Latifah, if you're gonna do the colonial work, you're gonna be broke. I like it like that. I want to be broke, but I'm bringing my table in. I'm not begging for a seat at the table. So in this type of conversations, this is why I do this work, because we have to name the imbalance. We will not keep pretending that everyone is starting the race the same. I want us. This is what I want to bring into the space. I want you to say to yourself, a lot of stories that is being told about us, they lie to us and we believe them, and that is a problem. That is the fracture that's been in our hearts. You are the author of your own narrative. Nobody can write your story for you. When people write your story, they lie. But when you write your story, even if you're gonna lie, you're gonna know that, well, this one I fabricated, because you know. But don't let anybody write your story for you. Don't. We have to stop that, because it's our identity. Don't let someone come tell you something about the Igbo people. No. If you don't know, just go ask. And this is the importance of knowledge. You can ask. I'm not gonna let a white man write a story about Latifa or Dunuga. No, I'm not, because you don't know me like that. You could see me, I could have a very strong art. That's your opinion, because your opinion don't matter. And I'm gonna leave it where today, where I'm gonna tell you that we cannot continue to accept this so-called universalistic views of knowledge, because particularism in this sense becomes very dangerous. Believing the knowledges of the five white men who are the ones telling us how science should be defined. The five white men who are telling us how society should be. We cannot. And we have to stop this epistemicide of knowledge that has been facing our people. We have to name this imbalance, because it is an epistemicide. There's a genocide of knowledge too. But we're gonna come back to that conversation. So yes, Latifa Odunugaye, and will lie to you. And why do you believe them? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Latifa. I really appreciate that. I really do. You see, one thing stood out to me when you were talking, and I think it calls for a reflection. In fact, you said somebody, a professor told you, if you keep doing this colonial work, you will be broke. That resonated very well with me. You know why? Because a professor have told me too, this is a coincidence, that if you keep criticizing European, you will not move anywhere here. This was told to me here in Italy. If you keep criticizing the European, you will not get any headway. That is what I was told here in Italy, in the Verona where I live. But it doesn't deter me, it doesn't stop me. And I think what this should also mean for us is that we should not be afraid to be who we are. I didn't say, let's take gun and start shooting people. But at least be who you are, even if you are going to die. Because you are going to die as a person instead of just an object that somebody else has prepared. We need to understand that when you want to stand for yourself, there are costs to it. Sometimes the cost is not going to be that they will shoot you. Of course, it sometimes get to that point, like Martin Luther King or Michael Myers, that they will say, okay, this is too much now. They will literally take a gun, they will shoot you. But there are many of us that will still suffer, not to that level. But if you are not prepared to suffer for that, then you don't deserve to be doing this work. So what Latifah is saying, I can confirm it wholeheartedly. I don't know about you. Okay, now I am saying that because there are a lot of people of African descent that are, I don't want to use the word, that are leaking ass all over now so that they can be appreciated, so that people can say, oh, you are good, you are good. But why are you doing this? You are an ambassador to your people. Where you are, that is, many people will never be able to get to that point. Why are you using it for your own ego? For your own selfish need, just so that they can say you are a good person. Who cares whether they say you are a good person or not a good person? You should know that you are a good person, and you should stand by that. Let's defend who we are. Not just because you want to make people feel good, that you change your name because you wanted to like you. You can't change your name because you wanted to like. You don't care. You shouldn't care whether they like you or not. I like me, myself. I like me the way I am. That is enough. I don't need you to come and validate me. I don't need it. Okay, would it be good if I am called upon to be celebrated? Of course, maybe. But that is not the reason I'm doing this. I'm doing this work because I believe that it is important, it is relevant, and I have only this time to do it. In a universe will never be able to reproduce me again. This is my time to do my thing. Now, let's go back to the conversation again. Reverend Gloria, you talk about, in your work, you talk about ancestral healing. You connect people to their roots. You let them know how to be able to leverage the power that is already within them. And today, we're talking about interconnectedness, that we all are actually connected. There is no debate about that. There is no argument about that at all. We are connected. Now, looking at it from your work and as an ancestral healing coach, how can we promote this more? Because we're not saying let's invent it. This is what it is. But how can we promote it more? Our interconnectedness.
Thank you, Brother Obehi. I don't even know where to start. Well, first of all, I wanted to say to my dear Aburo Latifa, get it, sister, get it. You know, the more the more you were talking, I was saying, yeah, I love it, I love it. I love your energy as always. And talking about interconnectedness, look at this topic has brought the full house. We're all here. I mean, that in itself already says something. And the power of storytelling, what Sister Latifah said, it resonated with Brother Obehi. I have a story very similar. So again, this is what happens when you tell your stories, and that's why it's so important, because it reminded me of how I felt when I was told something similar about my work with ancestral healing. That and this was from my own community. That how are people going to respond to it? You're a minister, the two don't gel, and it sort of it made me almost not want to pursue the work. But my ancestors said, "Nah, Mama, this work we're here for you to do this work." And until I decided to step into it, before I really felt I was in my full purpose. And the universe, ancestors, the divine brought the people who have continued to support me, have continued to encourage me. So again, the interconnectedness we talk about. I mean, across 30 plus years in mental health and spiritual leadership, I've witnessed that when a person speaks their story, something ancient awakens. When they're witnessed, something begins to heal. And when their story is mirrored, they remember their belonging. It's such a sometimes people just say, are these just words? But if you think about it and you test it out, as we're seeing now, one person's story is mirroring another person's story, and just listening to some of the stories that I've been told, it has somehow empowered me. It has reawakened things within me. I'll give an example of a client. I had a client who believed she had no story. As a lot of people say, I don't have any story to say. What am I going to say? It's not interesting. And I guided her toward her grandmother's migration, her grandmother's migration narrative. And her grandmother was a woman who left her village at 14 years old. She survived loss, raised 7 children, and held her community together. The moment my client spoke her grandmother's name, it was almost as if all that information was, what's the word now? It was transmitted to her. And she cried, she wept for a long time. And so did every other woman in that group. Somehow it resonated with them. My client hadn't realized she was carrying the resilience of 3 generations. Her ordinary story turned out to be a portal of ancestral memories. And this is how storytelling works. When you begin to talk about your ancestors, you are inviting them to you. And you'll be surprised what they're just waiting. They're waiting for the invitation. And we're living in times where they are really hovering around us because we need them. Yoruba wisdom, let's see how am I going to say this. I think I should start by saying research across the diaspora, um, psychology also reveals that displacement fractures identity, it fractures belonging, it fractures ancestral continuity, community roles, and spiritual foundations. And many of us feel this fragmentation as I'm not enough, I don't know where I belong, I'm nobody, I'm carrying burdens I can't explain, I feel distant from myself. And Yoruba wisdom explains the reason for this in the simple proverb, Eniyan lasho mi, which means people are my covering. And when people are removed, the covering tears. When story is removed, the soul becomes hungry. And this is what's going on in the diaspora. We're hungry. Our clothing has been torn, and we need to cover ourselves. We need to become that enio. We need to become a community. We need to become a be family to one another. And this is why storytelling works in the diaspora. It's not optional. It not even not necessary. It's imperative. It's almost a matter of life and death in a way. It's restorative justice, spiritual repair, identity reclamation, and ancestral healing. This is what is required. Interconnectedness in healing, and what I've seen in my work across my groups, my one to one sessions, ministerial work, and ancestral journeys, I've noticed the same phenomenon. When one person heals, others shift with them. This is communal healing. I think of it as, I think Sister Latifa spoke to that in a way, feminine, feminine ancestral science. It's our mothers, it's our grandmothers, the quantum and metaphysical interconnectedness. It's it's such a powerful thing. I give you another example of my ancestral work and interconnectedness. It's about a mother and depression, a mother's depression. It wasn't hers alone. A mother came to me struggling with deep sadness. As we explored her matrilineal line, she discovered three generations of women who had carried silence and emotional suppression. She realized in her words, she said, "This sadness isn't mine alone. It belongs to all of us, all my mothers." And through ceremony, narrative reframing, and ancestral connection, the sadness began to shift. It began to lift. Not so much because she fixed herself, but because the lineage was acknowledged. And through that, she received what she needed to be able to step into her own, get rid of the baggage she was carrying, and begin to see herself in her full capacity, and not and remove all the things that have been put on her since she'd been living in the West. Through interconnectedness, it dissolves isolation, and isolation dissolves shame. Shame dissolves where to when shared together. Shame in itself dissolves. I think it was Miriam, no, Brene Brown, who called. I think she said, uh, shame. How did she put it? That she calls this shame resilience. When you share shame with others, it strengthens you. And Yoruba cosmology says to this, it takes shared power to lift a child. Interconnectedness, in my opinion and in my work, is spiritual truth. In Yoruba cosmology, everything is relational. You are connected to your ancestors are connected to your destiny is connected to your community, and your community is connected to the wider cosmos. And any of you who know the famous feminist writer Audre Lorde, she said, without community, there's no liberation. I mean, the people who matter all talk about community. We've talked about Ubuntu. I mean, there's so many different ways. With Africans in diaspora, all our traditions all talk about community. So I think it was Sobonfu Some, I think that's her name, a spiritual leader, who said, "We are born to support one another's purpose." So I believe the resonance is global because truth is universal. And interconnectedness is not only about history, it's about the future that we are shaping. This is spiritual responsibility. This is the diaspora reclaiming its coherence. Your story is not just yours. Your healing is not just yours. Your pain is not just yours. Your power is not just yours. This is community. We rise, fall, and transform through one another. It is so, so important.
No, I will say that would never want you to stop because it was a music in our ear, but it's okay. And you're around. You're around. Now with that, I bring in Dr. Gwendolyn. Dr. Gwendolyn, we appreciate what you were saying before. Now, looking at what you do again, looking at it from the point of view of what you do, how do we strengthen interconnectedness? Because again, we don't have any argument that we are all actually interconnected, but how do we strengthen that so that we can benefit more from it?
I think that's a very good question. I believe that not, and research shows that not every family, as a teacher or administrator, not every family in our classrooms come from the African diaspora. We know that. And not every family, African, Asian, European, carries a cultural story that shapes how their children think. And I want to stop just for a minute to tell you a quick story. My grandson is in second grade and he has fallen in love. And he's saying that he's going to marry this young lady who is in second grade and sits next to him. She is Arab African, and I can't think of the African tribe she comes from, but knows this very well. The mothers have gotten together. My daughter and this little girl's mother. They've gotten together and they've become friends. And because they are friends, now I am friends to the whole family. And we get together quite often to have meals or to do fun things. But whatever we do, we are interconnected at this point. They're going to be married. Can you imagine this? Second graders, they're going to be married. So interconnectedness is not just limited to ancestry. It is a universal cognitive truth. Every child's mind is shaped by the story system they inherit. So Jacob has inherited a story system. His new girlfriend in second grade has inherited a story system. And so we're putting those story systems together. And because of that, here is what I require for every student. My last principalship was before the pandemic. And I require of myself and of any teacher who stands in front of children. Number one, they must understand that every child brings a mind shaped by culture, not curriculum. And children are not blank slates. They are thinkers shaped by memory, experiences, language, and identity. Now, when these two families come together, my family and the Arab African family comes together, we become one. We share ideas, we share, and even I forgot to tell you, even the mother has shared who we are to her mother and father, who they were in Africa, but now they are somewhere in the UK because of some kind of confusion that was going on. But she knows us. And so we are being circled around so that everybody knows everybody. So children are not blank slates. They are thinkers, again, shaped by memory, experiences, language, and identity. Number two, you must connect instruction to the child's lived experiences. So you don't need to match backgrounds, but you must match meaning because learning happens when content meets identity. Number three, you must recognize and honor the cognitive strengths children already bring. And I'm finding that many teachers don't want to go back and find out where our children are coming from. But if we want all children to be successful, because I'm speaking as an educator, we must see the pattern recognition. We must see the story intelligence. We must see the survival reasoning. How have they survived from where they came from to where they are now? And one of the things I always suggest to teachers that they invite parents to come in to have a conversation to the whole class about where they've come from. That emotional that Dr. Marcia talked about, that emotional interpretation is so important. What brings fear on? When you get upset in the classroom, what causes this? What has happened to you in the past that moves you to this point? The teacher must have professional developments on what is happening in the mind. These are not deficits. They are foundations waiting to be built on. Number four, you must teach cognitive skills, not just deliver lessons. Students must learn to shift their thinking. They must be able to compare ideas, hold information, sequence their steps, connect story to meaning. And this is the core of intellectual power. One of the things that I ask my teachers to do at the beginning of the day, they have like a little story time or circle time where they talk about what's happening, what happened the day before when they left school the day before. How will that impact what's going to happen to them today? You must allow students cultural stories to guide how you mediate their thinking. because as you're mediating, you're transforming the minds of students to think even further. So that's why at the very beginning I shared with you stories. I had to allow children's cultural stories to impact their thinking, which would impact their reading. So when adults honor a child's cultural lens, the child learns to trust their mind, not hide it. And for a teacher or an administrator who wants kids to be successful, they must not help them or participate in them hiding their minds. And above all, you must be willing to learn the mind behind the child you teach. And storytelling, at the very beginning of the day, we did storytelling, and we used reciprocal teaching, where you are talking and then you're stopping and you're asking questions. What was the main idea? What do you need clarified? What do you predict is going to happen next? But you're moving kids not only to listen to the story and make connections with their culture and other cultures in the classroom, but you're making them stop and think of other questions that they need to ask. You must be willing to learn the mind behind the child you teach. Your race doesn't determine your effectiveness. Your willingness to understand cognition and culture shapes it. So, because the truth is simple, if you don't understand how a child thinks, you cannot teach them. This is how interconnectedness becomes instruction, not theory.
Wow,
Thank you.
that is truly beautiful. That is truly beautiful. You need to start by understanding how the child think. As a memory expert, what is your take on how do we encourage or promote interconnectedness among us? Because, like we're saying, it's not like we are trying to invent something. This is actually the way things are naturally. But we want to promote the knowledge of it more in the community because of the benefit, the advantages they have for us. So, how do we do that? Please go.
Well, first and foremost, we have to be intentional. We have to be focused on disseminating information to the public, to our peers, people who might not even want to hear the message. As a matter of fact, uh, I'm teaching a class, like I stated, at Grandview University, and this university didn't even have this course. If it wasn't for my lovely wife, who told me this, hey, quit sending those applications over there at the university. Look at what the liberal arts department has. Find out where there's a gap and fill it. And I listened to what she stated, and I went back and I went through and analyzed what they had, and I created my own curriculum that I knew that would fit in to their program, and now they accepted it. But yet it's only at a private university here in the state of Iowa, because all state universities, it's against the law to teach what I'm teaching right now on college campuses here in this state. Because the mega right wings control the state, and they consider that DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, or I'm teaching critical race theory when I'm not. I'm teaching history. I'm telling facts, and 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 that's why we have to be intentional with what we're doing. Uh, I work there as a lecturer, just part time. The university just put up this coming up January. They have this event where they're talking about belonging and Martin Luther King Jr.'s view of the beloved community, and no one in the group or any faculty made a move on it. So I jumped on it and said, "Wait, I'll do this," and created a program called Ubuntu Philosophy and the Spirit of Belonging, building a beloved community across differences. So now at the university on the 15th of January of next year, they had me in there to come and run this workshop to look at how Ubuntu and 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 the beloved community are are connected. Everything's interconnected. But the thing is, this group has to come to realize many of the faculty and other staff and students are going to have opportunity to be in it. But uh, what I really plan to do is push forth and show them the power of cultural memory and how to deal with empathy and restorative engagement as a foundation of inclusive educational environment. It's students there on the campus from the continent of Africa, from different members of the diaspora that are there, and the vast majority of them are athletes, but yet they don't have that full belonging because the school is a Dutch Lutheran institution. They're focusing on the Dutch way. That's why it's so important for us to be intentional in our storytelling, regardless if I was bringing this information to Howard University or if I'm bringing it to a small college like the university or the college that I'm at right now. We the message doesn't change. The message remains the same that we are the founders of civilization. Our ancestors are the founders of, of wisdom and knowledge. And for us to maintain this colonial Western mindset is not going to help us. We have to decolonize our mind, decolonize the way we do things, and it will reflect on our personal our objective is the outcome to educate the world, educate our families first. After we have to educate at home because our first teacher is your mama and your daddy, who you meet at home. If you waiting on the school to educate your child, you have a problem. You're not thinking right. So like I was telling these students today, last week, they were saying like Dr. Nagus, they didn't tell us this, they didn't teach us none of this. I said, y'all don't understand that this particular subject, anything that dealt with Black studies or African studies in the United States, has always been contraband. And it's something, yeah, that's always been contraband. We had to fight to have uh, Negro History Week. We didn't have no, before we had Black History Month, we had Negro History Week by Dr. Carter G. Woodson. And he pushed that forth. He wrote the book, The Miseducation of the Negro, back in 1933. And if you read the book today and take the word Negro out and put African, African American, or whoever, you thought he wrote the book just 30 minutes ago. We're misinformed and colonialized. And the only way we can really uh, break from this chain is to uh, tell the Frankfurt School of Thought and Western scholars to kiss our hind parts and keep on kicking. Why do I have to go back? I had a good brother of mine, good friend from Sudan, got his PhD from uh, Dartmouth. Okay, brother from South Sudan, and he comes back with, oh, the Greeks and Aristotle and Plato and Thales. I said, man, they got you, bro. What the hell you talking about Aristotle and Socrates? When how many pyramids did they build in Greece? Huh? What you talking about? These people? Why are you not lifting up your own instead of talking about what they taught you? They taught us to be uh, chocolate coated Europeans.
Dr. Negro, you need to remember what Latifat was saying before, in that there are many of these professors, academicians, politicians, powerful individuals in Euro-Western society who are literally telling the African people, if you want your work to be accepted, you need to play to our tune. Sometimes very few of them say it openly, but the majority of them say it indirectly, which is why many of the work that is done by real Africa from the perspective of Africa never see the light of day. But they must make sure you see the light of day. Maybe you have something to say about that.
Well, I just call them from a book. You just made me think of this one book, just all out the clear blue. I'll start thinking about music, television, and the media, especially with the movies. It was a gentleman that wrote a book called Toms, Coons, Mulattoes, Bucks, and Mammies by Don Bogle. It's about how blacks were depicted in the motion picture industry. All we are, you if you can be in the motion picture industry, but you got to scratch where you don't itch. You gotta say yowza boss. You gotta sing that song, mammy, mammy, I love you, mammy. All that kind of BS. Your pockets might get fat, but you sold out your culture and you sold out your people.
Yeah, that's the right word. That's the
Sell
right
out.
word.
That's
Yeah.
what the young folks call them, sellouts. I got this multi-million-dollar position, but I can't drive through the neighborhood that I grew up in. I can't stop and I look and I see some little brothers on the corner and I'll drive by and say somebody needs to do something about them boys. Stop your damn car and get out and talk to somebody. See what's going on. You might find out that what you was looking at wasn't what you were thinking it was. You know?
Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. And that is really important. In fact, there is a reason I was asking you to talk more about before, about the fact that in the United States, when you talk about African history, it's illegal, it's
Yeah.
unaccepted. So I was asking, but what kind of crime? Who could imagine what kind of crime are they committing? Talking about the history of their people. You see, that is a crime that we are committing. That is why
Well,
they're yeah. Come
the
on.
United States got the most ignorant person in the world who happens to be labeled as a president that's a pure dictator. Probably has an IQ of a kumquat. The dude is sick and he's a pedophile and a sex offender. And he's the president of the United States. I'm sitting up here, had one felony charged 30 years ago with possession of marijuana, and I got a PhD and can't teach in the public school because a 30-year-old felony. But we got a president in this country who has 34 convicted felonies that's operating havoc in this nation right now. That's what's going on. So my objective is to do everything possible to get me a passport so I can get me and my wife get us away out of here and somewhere else where it's warm that I don't have to wear these sweaters. In November, December.
Dr. Ben said it correctly. May his soul rest in peace. That you will never get justice here. What you will only get is just this. So
Yeah,
we
no,
need to
just
put that.
us in the courthouse.
Yeah. We need to put that at the back of our mind. So, all right. So we're bringing in Dr. Matia to respond to see how from what she does. Dr. Matia, can you hear me? We're trying to see from your vantage point, from what you do, how do we encourage this spirit of interconnectedness in the community? Because again, we are not trying to invent anything. We are basically reaffirming what is already the order of the day. We are all interconnected. We better help each other. We better help each other because that is the only chance we have. What is your take?
What I say is simple. And it's a mantra that I have. It says, "To thine own self be true, thou canst not then be false to any man." We have to understand that our greatest asset starts with us. We need people, and people need us. When we get into the space where we are to operate using our unique gifts and talents, because God does not give everybody the same measure, the same accountability, the same reach, and the same audience and the same niche. Whenever we get into a space where we are to operate, we must make sure that in our innermost hearts, we are true and honest, that we stand for duty as a needle to the pole, that we cannot be bought nor sold, and that we stand for truth though the heavens fall. To thine own self be true, and you can't be false to any man. That's all I have to say on that matter.
We are not going to be able to appease to everybody, and we don't have to. We don't need to be able to sing their songs to their own benefit. We need to remember that we have songs too.
When we are interconnected with self and with the persons who are around us, we will understand that even our enemies can be used to elevate us. We have to understand that. So when I talk about to thine own self be true, I want us to understand that we must be discerning, we must exercise wisdom, we must be wise, and we must embrace and understand our integrity, what is dependent on us, and what it is that we are called to do, the change that we must make here, because sometimes we must march, but we are not to lead. And there are other times when we must lead and we are not to march. The problem I find is that we tend to do the things before the time. The pre-appointment that some of us place on ourselves and the virtues that we give ourselves would do greater good when it is needed and not when it is placed in on a highway of emotion and deliverance, because we must understand our place in the deliverance. We must understand our place in the change, because you don't have to be connected to the right people, and I'm putting it in quotes, to make changes. You just need to be connected to your purpose and your assignment and the time that you must advocate. Once you get that very clear, then the mission has to be accomplished.
I'm going to start with an accusation. I'm going to accuse people who are listening to me from wherever part of the world they are listening. I don't care. Someone in this room listening to this conversation, someone who will listen to this conversation after, is living a borrowed life, a borrowed identity. Someone in this room or listening to me right now woke up this morning, they looked at the mirror and they are repeating a script that they did not author. They're repeating a script to themselves that doesn't look like them, right? Someone in this room that is listening or that will listen after has abandoned an ancestor that is known to their own identity to fit into a room that was never built for them. I know this is not because I'm trying to make you feel like that, but because I know a lot of times we want to fit in under diversity and inclusion like it's a confetti, right? We cannot continue to let them give us those words to make us feel like, oh no, we want to bring you guys together. We want to make you feel among, right? Don't let them assign us amnesia that doesn't belong to us. I've repeated in this room the issue of epistemicide that has been facing our people. And epistemicide is a deliberate killing of a people's way of knowing. They want to tell you that what you know about yourself is a lie. They want to question your meaning making purpose. I'll tell you a little story. So I had a girl, she was making a conversation, and this was like in a professional setting, and she was talking to a random person over on the other side of the phone. And then she asked this person, what is your American name? I needed to listen to this. She asked this person, I was listening to this conversation because yeah, we're working together, but then I'm like, she was asking this person that she's never seen before the entire life. They told her the name. She wanted a shortcut. She doesn't want to go through the process of saying, can you pronounce the name for me so I can learn it? Or like ignorantly said again, what is your American name? And the person on the other hand did not understand the question, I believe, because they were shocked, right? Because I would think if someone is asking me now, after I've told the entire world that my name is Latifat, and you still want to give me a hard time learning that name, or my name is Tinuola, and you still want to call me Tino, no, we're not going to do that. Do not ask me what is my American name when, if I ask you what is your ancestral name, maybe you want to go find it, or you want to tell me you don't have one. So we're not going to go to that conversation today. So when I looked at this young lady, she said, like, in America, what do people call you? Because she didn't want to learn that person's name. She wanted that shortcut. She wanted to skip the syllables, skip the oral intonation, the accent, because it doesn't just fit comfortably in her mouth. But we'll lie to you. And why do you believe them? You want to impose a whole identity on a stranger that you have never met, because the original name that they gave to you required you to put in some efforts of education, efforts of knowledge in you. But in my own role as a storyteller, you have to understand that sometimes some things will eat you as a wound. It will be like a fresh wound, because when she mentioned that name, when she mentioned that question, after that conversation, then I sat her down and I said, can you tell me your ancestral name? She was shocked too. I'm like, yeah, because that's what is gonna happen. Sometimes, in Nigeria they say violence, not violence, violence. Sometimes you have to play the game of violence. I didn't say violence or violence, because I'm like, and then she did not have an ancestral name, or maybe she did because nobody ever had asked her. Nobody ever asked. Maybe she was never required to go back to really look at our own story from Europe, where our ancestors came from. You don't want to do the work of knowing about you, but you want to question other people's identity about imposing a name that they don't have on them. This is the illiteracy that most people in the West are carrying. It is not in malice. It could be malicious. It could be intentional or non-intentional, but it is the ignorance. And I had to sit at the same level of our ignorance to kind of like say, okay, please educate me on your ancestral name, because we need to also know if you have the audacity, the blackacity to ask somebody, or the whatever Cassidy, white Cassidy, caucasity, to ask someone what the American name is. You should also have that same energy to tell me what your ancestral name is. You don't want to pronounce the name because it's too hard, because people sit in privileges that has been endowed to them, because they think that they do have these privileges to question other people. I'm going to say again, let's run the tape back. Don't tell me my grandmother is uneducated because she will sit me down at 7 p.m. with other people in my community to tell us stories. My grandmother was passing knowledge to us. We would drink hot tea, not coffee, hot tea. And she made these stories. She would make these gestures, telling us these stories. At that point, you had to listen. You had to listen. You had to witness our gestures, because you need to repeat the songs that was said in this story to her. Don't tell me she's not scientific. All these things were things that was embedded in the kind of education my grandmother gave to me and bestowed upon me, and this is the knowledge I still continue to carry, because this was our ways of knowing. I'm also going to tell you again, who told you that your skin, your accent, your name is something that you shouldn't be proud of? It's something that you should not be able to carry. Who lied to you? And why are you still paying rent on the lies that they told you? Before I leave you here today, I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to, I'm going to try to tell you what we need to start doing, right? And you could decide to do it, you could decide not to do it. It is really up to you. But I'm just encouraging that some of the things that we should start embracing is not to allow ourselves to be edited for rooms that do not deserve us. At this point of my life, I don't even push anymore. I'm like, if you like the things that I say, if you think that my work needs to be celebrated, invite me and let's have a conversation. If it aligns with my mission, I'm gonna do it. If it doesn't, I'm just gonna tell you humbly, I'm sorry. I'm not gonna do this. We keep editing ourselves for rooms. We keep trying to be scared of the kind of languages that we want to use. When the people who say stuff to us say these things without being apologetic. Right now, what story did you have, or what story do you carry, that you have now carried this story, your generation has carried this story, or the identity you have carried, that you are now able to tell the story, but you have abandoned it because the particularistic view of these people are telling you that your story is not acceptable. Sit with that. What story did you abandon to be acceptable? It could be a story of how they gave you your name. It could be a story of your birth. For me, the story of my birth, I did a presentation at NYU the other day, and I told people, I said some people did not have the privileges of being born in clinics. I was one of those people. And I know people might be very uncomfortable to say that they gave birth to them in a traditional midwife house. I was one of those. My mom didn't go to a clinic. She told me this story. It took so long for me to come out, but guess what? I'm beautiful. Can you see that? No blemishes, thankfully, right? But some of us are not able to tell these stories because it sets us apart from others. But who lied to you? And why do you believe them? What part of your history did you downgrade to interesting background because you want this story to be like Cinderella at the end? Not all stories will become Cinderella. Not all stories will be a fairy tale because you want to fit into their narrative. So you now decide to downgrade your story. No. If you feel comfortable, tell your story. Don't downgrade any. I'm not downgrading. I'm the upgrade. So you gotta sit down, watch and listen, because I'm the upgrade you wanna meet. You're not gonna meet my downgrade because I don't have one. What name are you shortening today? What pronunciation are you softening? If your name is Amaka, let them call it with their chest. Amaka. Don't be saying Amax. No, we're not doing that. If your name is Olajide, let them call it Olajide with the intonation. Do not say Olaje or Jide. No, we're not doing that. And what ancestor are you going to be living at the door of this building, wherever you are today? Don't let them tell you to forget the ancestors that you've heard about. No, because if those are your ancestors and you believe in their framework, you have to carry it and embody it. And I know some of us are sitting here today. We're thinking that this whole idea does not apply to you. Oh, I don't have an ancestral name. Or no, my culture, my people were not born. Well, I need you to hear this. Don't let anybody try to assign amnesia to you. Don't let them try to amputate the knowledges that you have. Do not, because everyone comes from a particular place. Everyone listening to me today, there are people, your people, they had the way of knowing. They had a way of knowing. So I'm not here to inspire you because I'm here to implicate you to go and find. You have to go do the finding, go do the digging, go do your research. Do not allow other people to write your story or your people's story or your identity for you. Because every day you don't write that story, someone else will be writing that story for you. Here's your assignment this week. Don't Not today, not next week. Today, this week, call someone in your family that's older than you. Ask them, what did your mother or father used to say that you have never told me? Ask them story about your ancestors. Ask them story about your great 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 grandfather. Write it down. And the moment you're writing it down, you are finding one piece of your people's knowledge. Some of them may tell you it is superstition. Let them. Mel Robbins, white woman, she has said it. Let them. You too, let them. If someone is telling you, let them. You too, let them. They can call it superstition, but to you, you know it is not. And it is whatever you believe.
Thank you so much, Latifa. I can feel the energy in you, and that is really beautiful. We need it. We need a lot of it. We need it. Thank you so much, sister. And thank to all of you, particularly those who have joined us in the comment section. We have a lot of beautiful and encouraging comment here. We have Sherry Lucas. Thank you so much for being here. We have Marian Khalid. Thank you so much, Marian, for being here. And who else was there just now? Of course, Latifa, I already mentioned your name. Those in the room and that have already also commented, we say thank you for keeping the comment section busy. We have a lot of, I don't even know how many comments we have here today. All of us are interconnected because really we are the little boat or little knot in the big machine. So whatever is you are doing, whatever action you are taking is affecting some other persons out there. So make sure that you are intentional about it, like Dr. Negos have said. That is one thing I usually encourage here. I want to say it again today. If you are in business, if you have something that you are offering, please, it's important that you say it. Let the people know that you have something that you are offering. You are not jobless. You have businesses. So share. It's a few seconds of auto publicity.
Thank you, Brother Obehi, and thank you to all my brethren in the room today. So if anything, excuse me, if anything I've said stirs something in you and you'd like to explore or go deeper, come and join me in my 6-week Sacred Women's Circle, which will be starting in January. Details to follow. It'll be a powerful communal space for ancestral connection, feminine wisdom, healing, and deep storytelling. Or if you'd just like to learn more about ancestral lineage healing, Yoruba cosmology, traditions, or maybe you'd like to do some one-to-one deep dive, ancestral, spiritual, and transpersonal sessions, do book a free call. Go to my website, gloriaogumbadejo.com. I'm also on LinkedIn, and where else am I? Well, Facebook or other places. And I'll just end by saying we rise through story, we heal through remembering, we walk forward together, and may the blessings of the elders guide your path. Go forward in peace. Alafia.
I say, thank you so much for that. All right, so we pass the mic on now to Dr. Gwendolyn. Can you hear me?
This is such a privilege to be with this group, but we are not connected by land. We are connected by memory. And when we strengthen a child's mind, we strengthen our future because our ancestors didn't leave us wealth, they left us wisdom. And every time we build a child's thinking, we we honor them and we move our people forward. So, again, thank you so much. I have my new book out called Who Says I Can't, and it's building the mind. I go into schools and train leaders and staff with my retention brain framework.
A beautiful conversation. I enjoyed myself again. Uh, you just got a fireball group of people here, man. Sister Latifa, you make somebody go grab kick a door in. You know what I'm saying? Like say the hell with it. We coming up in here. You know, I love your energy, sister. Dr. Marsha, I love your energy, Dr. Gwen, Reverend Gloria. I'm just so thankful for the opportunity to be with such a prestigious group of individuals. Uh, I enjoyed this particular day, and I know I'm just I'm learning, even though I was getting a little older, but learning, and I just felt it's necessary, like we stated the question you asked about being intentional in what you do, and even though it might not be the end thing that the crowd is looking at, if it's for you to do, you got to do it. And I remember the poem when I pledged in Omega Psi Phi fraternity, October, no, it was May the 11th, uh, 1981. When I went over and I had to remember a poem while I was pledging, and it was called See It Through by Edgar A. Guest. It says, when you're up against the trouble, meet it squarely face to face. Lift your chin, set your shoulders, plant your feet, and take a brace. When it's vain to try to dodge it, do the best that you can do. You may fail, but you may conquer, see it through. Black may be the clouds about you, and your future may seem grim, but don't let your nerves desert you. Keep yourself in fighting trim. If the worst is bound to happen, in spite of all that you can do, running from it will not save you, see it through. Even hope may seem but futile when with trouble you beset. But remember, you're facing just what other men and women have met. You may fail, but fall still fighting. Don't give up whatever you do. Eyes front, head high to the finish. See it through. And from that poem, it gave me the inspiration to fight through adversities, through the doctoral journey, through life in general. Uh, that particular poem is a poem that resonates within my spirit, and I am the epitome of perseverance. So, only time I'll give up when they put me in a box and drop me in the ground.
Thank you so much for that. We appreciate that. We really do. All right, so now we move to Dr. Matzia.
All right, my final thoughts are just three questions I want to ask. And the first question is, who are you? The next question is, what is your purpose? And the next question is, what is your story? And then maybe another, how does your story align with your purpose? What do you want to be remembered for? And how do you connect and claim this intersection so that persons can learn, persons can benefit, can be better off, can actually change outcomes and their lives because of you? Because your story is uniquely yours, and your story is designed, your divine life script is for you to make an impact. And when all is said and done, it must be that you are able to be satisfied with yourself. You are actually able to say you have fought the good fight and you've finished the course that has been laid down for you. Are you able to say that on the journey that you are? And are you connected with the right persons, the ones that you were created to come to, the ones that are you solving the problems that you were created to solve? And how is this changing your story? So I want to leave those thoughts in the minds of people as we talk about interconnected, because your interconnection is a hard thing. We must treat people the way we want to be treated. Was the position reverse? And it is a mind thing. We, of everyone and of everything, if there be any praise or any virtue, we must think on these things. We must make our minds think on what we are, who we are, and what is our place in this world. So we can learn to truly connect through inclusion, forgiveness, acceptance, through the frailties and all those things that make the sum total of humanity. And we must make this world a better place for each other. I am Dr. Marcia Thomas, your faith-based Christian leadership consultant and life coach, and I help women, female leaders to find their identity, their God-given purpose, and to sustain their life and leadership and make a profitable impact. I You can DM me to continue this conversation. It was really a good thing being here, and I hope that this conversation created the thought that we wanted it to create and has the impact of transforming or changing lives and mindsets and concepts. We must remember that we are vessels with a divine assignment, and God does not expect us to operate from a place of pressure, but a place of overflow. Whatever is holding us back, whatever is keeping us in a framework of not maximizing our full potential, of not living up to our God given assignments, let us focus clearly on shedding those things. I can take you to that point. I also want to interject here that I am on a hurricane relief project for farmers in Jamaica. All the farming areas have been destroyed. We are looking at the extremely high cost of imports and so on. We want to help a farmer. I've started a project. I'm going through what I have in my hand, which is my book, My Faith Looks Up. I'm encouraging someone to buy. When you buy, you support a farmer. 25% of my profits from 1,000 copies will go to farmers, because we need that amount to start making a difference to, because of the small cost of our book. And I am giving 50% to 2,500 copies sold. So we need everybody to be on board so we can support a farmer and feed the hand that feed us. Thank you so much for having me here today. And for my colleagues, it's always a delight and a pleasure to be among such esteemed expertise. I learn something new every day, and I really appreciate being here with you all.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Matzia. All right, Latifat. So, what is your final thought here? And tell people how to find you.
Before I leave, I want you to tell your story, one true story about you, from where you come. It could be, you have to say this story loud to someone who doesn't share your background. Don't be apologetic about the story. Don't even try to translate the story to them. Don't express your meaning. Just even don't try to digest the story and elaborate, but just tell them the story, something so true about you. And then, it makes you kind of take that power, because storytelling is liberation, right? So when people are trying to tell you, shorten your name from Amaka to Amax, or shorten your name from Obehi to Abi, no, we're not doing that. Don't soften your identity for people. Don't allow people to tell you how to exist. for their own comfort. Let them learn, right? The next time someone is telling you what is your European name or what is your American name, look them in the face, take your glasses out if you need to. Look them in the eye and ask them, what is your ancestral name? Let them also go and do some research. You can go and do research about your American name, I don't know, but let them also go back and find out, right? Gavin Newsom will say, do this around and find out, right? I don't want to use the word because it's a curse, but he says that. And for those type of things, you will not allow people to lie to you about your story. So I ask you one more time, who lied to you, and what are you going to do about it? Not even now, why do you believe them? What are you going to do about that lie? So you live in this room today with that personal empowerment, with that community empowerment in this group, to go and do something about that lie that has been told about your ancestry, about your identity, about who you are, about who you are going to become. All right. Latifa Odunuga, author of children books. I like to connect with children about storytelling. I'm a mental health clinician working in different psych ER settings. And after all this work that I've done, I realized that storytelling is what got us here, and storytelling is going to get us out of here. So connect with me on LinkedIn. Thank you so much, bro, Obehi, for this platform. Always nice to meet with all these fantastic people, my leaders. Egbomi, I see you, bro. Obehi didn't say that today, Egbomi, but
Hey,
I'm
Bobby.
Egbomi, and all the other Egbomis and Papa means and Yamis in the group. Thank you so much. Thank you, honestly. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Latifa. We appreciate you, sister. We appreciate you. All right. For all of you that have accompanied us to the end of the conversation, we say thank you very much. We appreciate you. And of course, we encourage you to join us again in 2 weeks' time, because every 2 weeks, we do our best to be faithful, to be here, bringing you different information that can be helpful to you. And like I say quite often, our duty is to do what we have to do to bring the information to your doorstep. But when it gets to your doorstep, it is no longer our responsibility. That becomes yours. Whatever you do with it is up to you. And we hope that you take the right action. Because if you don't take action, nothing is going to change.